Welcome back to the Growing Band Director Podcast. This is episode number 203. I'm here with Ann and Ben Chambers and my wife, Krystle. How's everybody doing?
Great.
Doing well. Thank you.
Summertime.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here. We're so excited to meet with you. My wife and I, Krystle, we're a married couple who teach in the same district. She teaches middle school and then feeds me to the high school. And I love your story because even though this isn't about co-parenting and co-teaching together, that's something that we have in common. My good friend Trent Austin started Austin Custom Brass so many years ago. You can call him at 816-410-0826. They ship all over the world. They have a shop in Kansas City, Missouri, and they really are an amazing sponsor of this podcast. They do trumpets, trombones, euphoniums, tubas, mouthpieces, and more, all the way from the beginner to the professional. Austin Custom Brass has worked with thousands of brass players from around the world. You can check them out on www.austincustombrass.biz. Whether you're a student, a band director, a parent, or a player, Austin Custom Brass is your place to go for all your brass playing needs. Austin Custom Brass works with band programs from all over the country. They can provide a bid to you today. They can work within your school's budget, and they accept POs. Call their team today at 816-410-0826. Austin Custom Brass is an amazing resource for brass players and great humans, great people. You'll love working with them. Give them a call. Can you guys tell us a little bit about your situation and both the teaching side and the family side?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been married now going on. We just had our 10-year anniversary on a band tour year. So that was fun. Got to celebrate the 10 years on a band trip. So yeah, we have two children. We have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, just about to start pre-K with the 5-year-old. And our situation, we both team teach 7th grade through 12th grade band. So for me, I'm kind of the head middle school band teacher and teach the 7th grade and 8th grade band. And then Ann is the high school director, and she has 2 concert bands up at the high school. And how our schedules work is that we will start with high school band in the morning, and she's typically the lead of the class, and I will be doing pull-out lessons or individual meeting times or meeting with, the woodwinds of the brass while she's doing most of the main podium time. And then we will flip in the afternoons after we get done with those 2 classes to where I'm then on the podium and she's doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work with lessons and pull-outs. But the really unique thing is that we're both interchangeable. Like if she's a woodwind player, I'm a brass player. If there's something that she really wants to work on with the high school woodwinds, I get on the podium and she takes them. So it's a very fluid transition that can happen at a moment's notice, and which makes it just very efficient. And we've really enjoyed doing it. We've been doing that now for 8 years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been living the dream up here doing that, teaching band.
I'm just wondering, like, how you got. Obviously, you're on the same campus, right? You're at Light of Christ Catholic Schools in Bismark, North Dakota. Should I re-say all that? Did I say that weird?
No.
Okay, well, we'll just
Keep
keep going then. That's fine. So you're obviously on the same campus. Like, how did you set that up that you're co-teaching all the time?
Well, how it works is we're actually on 2 campuses. So we just opened a new school about 4 years ago, and we start our day at the high school, St. Mary Central High School. And so we teach there. We teach 2 bands there in the morning. And then we actually travel down to the St. Mary's Academy, which is our middle school campus, grades 6 through 8. And we flip roles there. So then he kind of takes the lead and I assist. And then after that, Ben will stay at the academy and assist with 6th grade band. And I typically travel back to the high school and I do pull-out lessons or just all the paperwork stuff that comes with being a high school band director. And I also try at the beginning of the school year to assist a little bit with 6th grade here just to help get our beginner band kids off to a great start. So we are traveling a lot every day. We travel and it's a challenge, but it's also nice it forces us to get outside and get some fresh air and kind of regroup and have a little bit of planning time in that 10-minute, it's about a 10-minute drive, I would say. Yeah. And so it has its advantages and disadvantages. Of course, when the snow hits up here in North Dakota, it can be a little dicey, but we've made it work. Yeah. And I can't imagine not having that opportunity, because to be able to see both middle school and high school, there's a lot of advantages to that. So.
And the administration was really pivotal in helping us kind of align it that way. When we took the job 8 years ago, the job actually consisted of the beginning band portion was at 3 separate parish elementary schools. And so there was like a traveling component to that. And then 7 through 12 was all in one building, this building that we're in right now, which is the middle school campus. So there was a lot of bodies in one building. And because of our just rapid growth in our Catholic school system, there was this huge need and desire to build a second campus. So when we took this job, the administration and the business people knew that, well, we're going to have to be able to do this in a certain way to where when we expand the buildings, we got to be able to make all the schedules work so that all the classes can still flow and happen. And so, it just took a little bit of sitting down at the table with them and kind of drawing that out, and they were very helpful with it so that there would always be 2 teachers in the room to kind of help that system grow and be efficient with the teaching part of it. And so we're just very thankful that they were able to help us out with that. And we've seen a lot of progress from it. And it's really, it's been a very enjoyable experience, working, traveling, doing all the things, it's been really great.
We will get right back to our content, but I wanted to thank you for being such an amazing band director, that you're taking your time and listening to a band director podcast. There's many options out there, and I appreciate you very much taking in this content. I hope that you understand that your students are very lucky to have you as their band director, that you're continuing to grow, and that they are going to benefit from your improved skills as a band director. You can share this episode with any band director friends or other music education friends who can learn from this content, because good pedagogy is good pedagogy. And if you could take a moment and go to thegrowingbanddirector.com, and you'll be able to sign up on our Patreon platform to give at least $5 or $3 a month. And it helps the content continue to be created for you to help our profession grow. Let's go back to our scheduled episode.
So tell us about your beginners. I'm picking up on the fact that beginners are 6th grade. So there's many schools across the nation that start in 6th grade. Here in New England, most of us start in 4th or 5th grade. So tell me about how that works, because you just mentioned that you guys had started some beginner stuff happening this week. So this is before school is happening for you guys. So tell us about the 6th grade beginner band program.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we kind of start our year off with a beginner band camp, and that happens typically the week before school starts. We do a Monday through Friday, and the students come in based on what instrument they play at different times in the day. We do little 45-minute group sections. So I think 9 o'clock is trumpets, saxophones, trombones, and oboes. So we have 4 different teachers to teach those 4 different sections. And then we teach them for 45 minutes, and then we get the rest of the band in. So it's usually a 9 o'clock, a 10 o'clock, and an 11 o'clock little session. And the main thing is just to make sure that they get that instrument put together properly, all the correct hand positions, getting some sounds going, and just really working on tone development for that first week. It's just a little tiny taste to get them really excited about coming into band and starting that year off. And for anybody that misses that camp, we can help catch those kids up through the rest of the school year. So then once school starts, there's actually a 3rd teacher at our middle school campus that is the head teacher for that class. We split them into 2 sections. And I'm the one that's doing the pullouts. So again, that team teaching method of somebody's on the podium, somebody's pulling out. And so we'll do that. We can get through the whole band in like a sectional rotation, like every 2 weeks. Sometimes we pull one section for an entire class of 45 minutes. If they're moving quick, we can do 2 groups of 20 minutes, in individual time or group time. And so we do that for pretty much the first 2 quarters. We have our first concert in December, which is a really fun concert to do. We call it the Beginner's Debut. And this has been a long time tradition that our school has been doing. In fact, Anne is an alum of this school system. So she remembers doing this when she was a youngin'. So I'll let you kind of talk about that.
All the way back in 6th grade. Yes. So it's a really special performance where we have our full 6th grade band, which is typically around 100 students. We invite our steel band. We have a steel drum band here in North Dakota. We're the only one in our state. But we have a steel band, and then our wind orchestra, which is our auditioned high school group. So the beginners get to hear some really fun music from the steel drum band. Our wind orchestra gets to come out and play, you know, a couple fun tunes. And then at the end of the concert, we play a combined number together. I think, what is it? Band on a Housetop. It's a great piece to do because it features every section. And, you know, we wear the Santa hats and we just have a lot of fun putting that concert on. And it's a really special one. And then afterwards, we might do some hot chocolate or candy canes for the kids and keep it nice and short, like 45-minute concert for that first one out of the gate. And it's just here in our high school gym, or our academy gym. And it really just gets the kids fired up. And it really allows the parents to see how far they've come in just one semester of playing.
It's a true concert. You know, it's not, I've been a part of like informances where it's a lot of talking and teaching to the audience. And this is just one of those really enjoyable, it's a concert. And those parents get to hear their child from like day one when they're making all the weird sounds down in the basement. And then in 3 months, they're playing all these nice big full songs and they play with the wind orchestra. And there's just a lot of excitement that kind of carries through for the rest of the year. Because after
probably a lot of anticipation because there's so much tradition here for this community event. So, I mean, that's brilliant. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that leads right into like, we'll take our beginner group to a large group festival. We travel just across the river to a town called Mandan, and we'll do kind of a large group festival where they get to play 2 songs and get adjudicated. They get to listen to some other groups and see what other groups are playing like. You know, again, more exposure, and just listening and watching is great for those kids. And then after that, there's a little bit of a break in the calendar, and we have our spring concert at the end of May. So there's 3 big performances for them, but we do lots of little kind of in between things. We'll do, you know, sometimes we'll do band Olympics with them, or like a March Madness competition, or we'll do like a Christmas card bingo, just to kind of keep that energy and that excitement up kind of during the low periods of the year. But I love working with beginners. I never thought that would be like the highlight of my career, but that is the funnest time, is working with those 6th grade kids.
Same.
Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast with a roster of imaginative composers, including composers who have been featured on this podcast, such as Carol Britton Chambers, Laura Estes, and Tyler Arcari. Excelsior Music Publishing provides new music for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, as well as books and resources for all levels and occasions, including a large and festive selection of music for your fall, holiday, and Christmas concerts. Find your perfect next piece at excelsiamusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com.
I don't know what like took over with me, because I had this conversation with us. We're going to have a student teacher in January coming up. And he was like, yeah, I think I'm going to teach high school. And I was like, yeah, I remember being you too. I was going into student teaching. I was like, I cannot wait to teach high school. I love the repertoire. I love the age level. I want to go teach high school. And then I was like, I can't imagine teaching high school now. I love the beginners. I love everything that you said, including tone development the first week. Like, I could have jumped out of my chair just now when you just said that. I think that is like, it's worth its weight in gold. And you're doing all the things to build this incredible momentum with them and get them excited about upper level music on their first concert. Like, that is like, what a goal for them to even be thinking about. They don't know what that sounds like when they're learning hot cross buns, but they do at their first concert. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you're building culture
yes
in your program when you do that. And that's so huge.
And the community's in on the culture.
When you say like the hot chocolate and all that, but like those are really important things that helps build that band culture, like all the way continuing up through.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's really beautiful, you know, especially as an alum coming back into St. Mary's, to kind of see some of these traditions that have held through all these years, and to be able to be on the other side of it now as a director and see how it all comes together is really special. And just so appreciative too for our school and community to want to keep fostering that with our students, because that doesn't always happen, you know, with changeover. And so we're so glad that that those have stuck true.
Was there anyone in between you and sorry, your director and you, was there another director in between, or did you literally take over for your director?
So the band director who was at St. Mary's when I was here had taught here for 30, 35 years and really established quite the legacy. I was part of the class of 2007, which was a really special class. We had a number of four-year all-stater. I mean, it was just we were playing Lincolnshire Posey and like all the great classic lit. And so I really came from a great program. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer in 2009, I believe. And after that, there were a few other directors that took over. And, you know, no matter who takes over after somebody who's been teaching for 35 years, it's going to be hard, no matter what the circumstance. And so, so there was a lot of changeover, and naturally, things just happen. And so, you know, coming in, we had the freedom to kind of do what we wanted. And, you know, that was the beauty of that, is that we could kind of start from scratch and say, here are our goals and here are the things that we want to accomplish. And there's certainly been a number of challenges, but we're in a great spot now where we feel like, you know, the program knows who we are now. We've graduated, you know, all the way through those. Yeah. Our first class of sixth graders, you know, graduated as seniors a couple years ago. And so the program only knows us. And I think there's beauty in consistency when you have that, because it can be hard in any situation when you have turnover for teachers. So we finally have that consistency going now.
Yeah. When you were hired, were you hired as a team? Were you hired at the same time or different times?
Yes, we were hired as a team. So back in 2016, 2017, St. Mary's had reached out to us and said, hey, I think there's going to be a couple of positions available. Are you interested? And it's funny because living in South Dakota, first of all, I always told myself I'm never marrying another band director. That's never going to work.
How'd that work out?
And then we got married. It's funny how you think things and they don't turn out. And then I told Ben, you know, Ben asked me like, do you think we could ever work together? And I said, absolutely not. I'm not interested. We're not doing that. Like, you do your thing, I'll do mine. And so then when we were approached this, you know, it was something that we really kind of had to discern and pray about. And, you know, after a while, we really felt like this was our vocation and we should really look into this. And so, yeah, it was definitely a team. 2 positions were available, and it was definitely, you know, hired as a team. And it's been good. And so I proved myself wrong twice now. And I'm so glad because, it's definitely where we feel like we need to be right now.
Yeah, that's when all those conversations kind of started, like in that interview process. You know, we just felt so comfortable about like what we kind of had visions for of making the program into. You know, we knew like prior to them contacting us, you know, we were at great schools. Anne was teaching at a school called Brandon Valley High School in Brandon, South Dakota. Wonderful program, has a long legacy of great music educators. And I was in the Sioux Falls public schools working with some wonderful bands, some great marching bands. Then I transitioned over to the Catholic school system in Sioux Falls, and I just was instantly hooked on the Catholic school education model. I'm a public school graduate myself, you know, and I was raised and confirmed Catholic and did all of those things along with my religious education. But as soon as I experienced it just for that one school year, I was like, there is something very special here. And I want to be around this more. And so when we, again, were contacted about this potential position, you know, all the gears started turning in my head and in her head of like, okay, this is like a fresh canvas. This is something completely, you know, it's going to be something we're going to come in and have to work at. But they want, like, they kind of said, how do you want to draw this up? You know, how do you see you guys working as a team together, and what do you see moving forward? And after we got through the interview process and they gave us the job, we kind of did the same thing with our students that very first year. I remember having those same conversations with our drumline students, our high school students. Like, what do you guys want to be like? What is the legacy that you want to lead? Like, we want to take you from where you're at and go higher. How do you see that happening? It was a very collaborative effort. And I still remember those kids when they graduated after 4 years were some of our strongest kids that we had. And I think at the end of their 4 years, we got to like, I think a grade 5 piece, you know, by the time we were through 4 years. And I'm like, all right. And it started just with those couple of conversations, like you were talking about, you know, just culture, legacy, you know, what do you want to do with your time while you're here? So
it's important that you have a vision. I think no matter where you start, whether you're a student coming out of college and you've got your first teaching job, or you're walking into a new program and you have 10 years of experience under your belt. Kyle was in his fourth year of teaching, and I was in my third year of teaching when we started in Westbrook, and we were taking over for a program that had a very long legacy and a teacher who had been there for a long time. And when we started, it was not what we were expecting. And I think that most people, when they walk into a position, it's not what you're expecting, no matter what they tell you in the interview, no matter what happens, you know, before you get there. But you said something really important, and that's vision. And you had it. And I think that every person who takes over in a new program needs to have something very concrete in their mind about what they want to see happen. And it's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of partnership. I mean, yes, you guys are married, but if you're the high school director, having your weekly vision conversations with your middle school director is going to be essential walking into a job.
You just can't do it over dinner.
Yeah, you just can't maybe. I mean, I guess you could have dinner with the person once a week, but yeah, I don't know. I think those conversations are so important. And if I was not married to Kyle, I would have to have those conversations with that high school director, because these kids that I'm starting, I have a vision for, and I want them to experience what happens next when they move on. It's something that I think we sometimes take for granted, as the fact that we're married and we can have conversations at dinner about our program, although that's weird sometimes too. Like, I do want to not have to always talk about our job. But the conversations lead that way so much because it's so much a part of our life.
I find that because we can have that conversation, that sometimes at school, we don't have to. Like, in some ways, it makes school easier because there's already that either conversation or understandings happened. So yes, we kind of stretch it out a little bit more outside of school, but
it also sounds like you guys have a good partnership with the other teacher who teaches 6th grade and must be on board with your vision. So there are other people involved. You know, I definitely believe in the partnership with my elementary music people, because if I did not have them starting these kids in kindergarten with some foundations for their music education, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing in my 5th grade beginner band program. So all of those things carry over to those of you who are not married to the other person in your district.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And we've always stressed that this is always a team approach. No, I mean, yes, we're a team because we're physically married to each other and can have all the conversations, but anybody that is on the team has to be at the table and having the conversations. We've had a couple of 6th grade band directors over the past couple of years. We actually just hired a brand new one this year. And it's kind of interesting. The new hire is actually related to the old hire. So there's a lot of transferring of, important knowledge, that happens very seamlessly.
It's a great,
And there's just a huge amount of trust, and I think that definitely emulates from us. We have a lot of trust in each other, obviously, because we're on this lifelong journey of being married, but like just welcoming more people into that trust and, having those conversations with them, sharing the vision, and just being very open-minded, always willing to listen, be patient, guide, teach, because for somebody that's coming in new, those intricate knowledge of how the system works and what you really want to have happen, you want to make sure that the other people feel valued. You want to make sure that the other people can contribute. And so we're always welcoming of all the new ideas that come forth from all of our colleagues that we have, and we work on it together to find that best solution that fits with the flow of the program, you know, and I just love that sense of trust that we have.
And
oh, go ahead.
I think the patience piece is really key, because coming into a program, it's very easy to get excited about all the things that you want to implement and change. And that first year, you kind of just have to be in the year and just see how things go. And then slowly after that, start adding things. And so it really takes time. And so it's hard. It can be hard to be patient. But in the long run, I think it's beneficial, because then it's not overwhelming. And
it's a long game.
Yes, it's a long game.
It's like the longest round of golf you've ever played. And each shot is very just meticulously planned out. And, you know, if you missed one, that's okay. We're still going to pick it up, and we're going to, you know, this teaching thing is a 35+ year career dream, you know? And so to just plan that out and just take it and enjoy those moments without feeling like you got to change everything right away, you know, enjoy the teaching.
It's interesting because you mentioned planning, right? So one of the things that you guys are dealing with, that every teacher deals with who also wants to be a parent, whether they're looking to have children, have a family, or they already do, that whole balance of, you know, I think most people would agree that my family has to come first, right? And then, are we actually acting that way? And then, but also, I want to be a good father or a good mother, but I also want to be a really good band director. Like, I don't want my band to stink at the same time. So like that balance is really hard. And I can't speak for Krystle, but for me, the planning portion is a huge piece of that, that I kind of always plan ahead. And it started with when the kids were really young, and when one of us has to be out because they're out sick, well, who's got more rehearsals? Like, how do we do that? And I knew that I might miss a week. Like if somebody's really sick and I have to be gone 4 days, like, so I started planning ahead enough so that I knew I could start the next week. And that's kind of carried through to programming and all those other things. And that's something that's kind of put me at ease, being a parent and knowing the program is also running at the same time. So I'm curious as to sort of how you guys have worked that out.
You're the planner. You started off.
I am the planner. Yeah, I mean, once you figure it out, let me know, because it's really hard. And I think, you know, when we first got here and we didn't have kids, it was very easy to stay at school until, you know, 6, 7 o'clock and really just work the grind and get a lot of things done. And then when those little ones come, you know, you only have them little once. And I really hold true to that. And I think band will always be there, but your kids will not always be at that age and that stage. And it's really important for us. Something that we've had to work on a lot is, you know, keeping our work at work, and when we're at home, being at home with our family. And it's taken a long time, and we still have to work at that. But yeah, I mean, it's constantly a game, and it kind of like you, Kyle, it's all right, what do we got going on today? You know, what do we need to get done? I remember a specific story. It was one of our pep band nights, and we had a number of our students gone for the March for Life out in Washington, D.C. And so I had a smaller pep band, and I thought, you know what, we're going to be fine. Ben will play trumpet and lead the band, and we'll be fine. So I said, okay, we just need to get through tonight. Well, then at like 5 o'clock, Ben spiked a fever. And I was like, uh-oh, what do we do now? Like, you know, here we go. And you know what? The kids stepped up and they did a great job, and it all came together and nobody noticed, and life went on. And I think something important for us to remember is everybody has things going on, right? Everybody's worried about their own families and their own things. And the band will always be there. And some performances might be great, some might flop. And at the end of the day, we'll meet in the middle and it'll all be okay. You know, I can hardly remember what my performances were like a year ago, and I'm the band director. So do you think, you know, other families and other students can remember? Maybe, but again, they're so busy doing other things. So that has kind of helped me put things into perspective, that the band will continue to run. But at the end of the day, family is the most important. And that does have to come first, because they only live years one time.
One of the things,
and we value that.
One of the things we were talking about off air a little bit was the, drop the kids off at 7:30 and have to be on the podium at 7:40 or whatever. And I remember, especially, you can't be like, hey, you do it, you have the business job. No, because your spouse is also in the same position. And I was the drop off person for a number of years with both kids, and they were like 3 and 2, 3 and 1 or whatever it was. And I remember we couldn't drop off till 7:15. So I'd drop off, and then I was literally 5 minutes, and I'd go into school, and there's already 45 kids like sitting, hanging out in front of the band room door, like in the lobby. And I'm like holding all my stuff, and I just put down this little rascal of a boy, and like I barely, and I'm like, can you let me in the band room? Like I want to go and just sit for a minute. And I remember then just teaching straight through, and sometimes teaching straight through, and then teaching marching bands straight through. And then we had rehearsal after school, and like then you see the kids, and it's like 6 o'clock, and you're like, did I even eat today? I mean that. And I just want to reassure people. I mean, every experience I think is different. For us, having young children and being full-time band directors was very hard. Yeah. So if people are finding it hard, you're normal. And I want to say that in our situation, it has gotten easier as our kids have gotten older.
Yes. And I would piggyback on that, because I think what the beauty of children, what they brought into the equation was that we have to find more ways within that contracted hour of being efficient. All the systems that you are all thinking of implementing, whether it be a lesson system or a pull-out sectional system, or we're bringing in a local community person to do some master classes, whether you're implementing a new textbook or a new technology, all of those things that you bring into your program are to make everything more efficient and flow the way you want them to, so that in the case that you are not there, everything can flow the way you want to. Yep. And I honestly, like through having our children now, like my overall like music philosophy and vision of the program has now shifted to, I want to, at any point in time, for anybody to be able to come in and do my job with that seamless transition. And whether that be like the instruments are better, the schedule is set up, the resources are there, the people that you need to contact are all right here. Because like you guys have already talked about, there was a lot of heavy homework that you had to do getting into a new program that you never anticipated. But now having built that and become more efficient between the hours of 7:30 and 3:30, and all of the tools you've implemented, it allows you to get all of those things done, take that fear and that weight off your shoulders, that band is going to be okay. Yep. And that your family does come first. So there is a little bit of homework and heavy leg working that needs to take place at the beginning, just like anybody that's in a non-married position as well. But all of those things, just imagine what it's going to feel like when that system is kind of running itself. Before we got up here, this was one of the things we kind of took from our time in South Dakota. When we both student taught in Sioux Falls, we student taught at Lincoln High School, and I happen to know those directors really well. It's a really, it's a gem of a program in the Midwest, and they're known on a national stage. They compete at the BOA level, and they're just doing phenomenal things. And when we were student teaching, just the amount of organization and the amount of parent support, the amount of community support, administrative support that took time to build, but is now a cornerstone of this region of the country. I mean, it's a machine, and it just kind of runs itself. And then that elevates the director to that position where you can now visionary plan. You don't have to so much worry about like the boots on the ground stuff. And I'm sure you guys can make those connections to your own programs of, I want to get to there, but there's going to be some legwork. But once I get there, I will be looking at things through a different lens. And I think we do that a little bit more now. I mean, our kids are 5 and 3, and I'm sure when they're, when they get to those next couple of ages, things will change. But I agree with you. I think some things are going to simplify themselves as they get a little older. So,
and I forget who it was, and forgive me if that person's listening, but in one of the interviews we did, the person was saying that they were taught by their mentor to only do in the position what only they could do. Meaning, if it's something that somebody else can do, a student can do, another parent, outsource that so that you can spend the time doing only what you can do.
It's another system in place, that has to be set up, and I definitely feel like I need to speak to the early 20s right now. If you're going into a job, or you've just gotten a job, or you're thinking about what's happening next year and you don't have kids and you're not married, if you find yourself at school extra hours, just be thinking of this conversation that we're having right now. Set up your systems then, and then basically get everything off of your plate that can be done by somebody else. And things will, maybe when you are married and you do have kids, you'll be thinking about this and be like, oh yeah, this is a lot harder. I can't be at school till 7 o'clock.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm a bad person for thinking this, but I swear the minute our daughter was born, my first minute back on the podium, first of all, I got to school after 3 weeks of being at home. I just sat in the office and I was like, oh, this is so easy. I'm just at school. Nobody needs me. We're just here. Nobody's screaming. Nobody needs the, whatever.
She was a tough cookie.
But I also remember getting on the podium for the first time and like looking at the kids, and I looked at them completely different. Because beforehand, and I don't mean to sound cold, but I think as a younger teacher, I was thinking of them as a part of my program. Like, this is my band and you play this, and that's like kind of your purpose and when I see you. But then when I came home, I went home and we had our daughter, and then came back into school. Like, I saw each one of them as somebody's little baby who had like grown up a little bit. And I kind of saw my daughter at the time in each one of those kids,
who's now 13 and 1 year from being in his program.
Wow, that's exciting.
I can't wait for you. That's gonna be so special. every minute.
It's been special teaching her. It has. Love you, Eddie. If you hear this.
So I don't know if any of the three of you had that same feeling, but for me it was definitely like an immediate shift when I was a father then teaching people.
I just had so much fog in my brain. Like, I think it was just hard being present for a while until I got to the point where I was actually sleeping at night and she was sleeping. And, I don't know. I those years were very much a blur for me, but I had already set up my systems. So I came into school, I did my job, things had already been set up, and then I left and I had to like run and go get her at daycare. And so it was like, I think things were a little bit more on autopilot, and I wasn't able to be present because of what was happening in my brain and taking care of a newborn. That, I don't know, that happens. That's where I was at coming back to school at that time.
Yeah, very similar experience to you. A lot of it is a blur back to those late nights. And how did I get up for early morning marching when I was up 3 times that night and late night pep bands, and somehow it all happened. Somehow it all took place, and it will. And it's just a season, and I think sometimes you have to remember that everything is a season. It won't last forever. Whether you have kids or not, things will grow and change. And, but I definitely, experience things in a different light. And especially now with our son going into school, I'm like, oh, I actually need to read these emails now and know what's going on and make sure that I'm on the parent side of things, which I think will be really helpful for me to see things in their light, and get a perspective on that as well.
Yeah. And I think from my perspective I now have a child of my own, and now I do view them in a different light. Like you said, Kyle, yes, very much so. You used to be you play trumpet, so you're going to learn this trumpet part, and that's what matters the most, and all of those things. And just, we all know, whether you're married or not, or you're old teacher or new teacher, like, you wear so many hats as a teacher. Like, you can go from one thing to the next, and they can be on completely opposite sides of the spectrum. But I think that beauty of being a parent just helps you slow down in the moment and really kind of diagnose and see things in a different light, to where that kid might be they really need you in that moment, and they might need the dad you. Then that could be like the supportive dad you, that might be the correctional dad you, that might be the, you got him, kid, like, go get him. That it's just a different way of looking at the class. And the dad humor, I think, naturally comes out and softens things. In fact, I think
dad humor,
one of my 8th grade kiddos sent me a letter, like, at the end of the school year, saying they literally made like the back of their band book was just covered in quotes and isms and all the things. In fact, they were playing bingo. They made a bingo card out of the things that I do or reference. And it wasn't just like 2 kids. It was like 3 or 4 or 5. And they were keeping tabs on each other. Like, oh, you got B2. All right, I got it. You know?
Oh my gosh, that's
So,
hysterical.
and I love that. You know, that's why I come back to like this teaching thing that we're doing. This is such a long game, and enjoy the time. And I think being a parent has kind of forced us into that, like, just enjoy it. Everything that you're doing. And this year, whether this is an up year, a down year, a first year, or a last year, just enjoy every moment of it, because like your children, they're going to come and they're going to go, you know, and just teach from that position of joy, you know, as much as you can.
Mm.
So what are some advantages of being married to a band director, and maybe some disadvantages? I can't think of any disadvantages.
That you answered that
My
question
wife is
correct.
right here, but
I
if you have
appreciate
any.
that.
That was absolutely the 100% right answer, Kyle. You nailed that. You nailed that. I mean, I think some of the things that come off the top of my head, we just communicate every time of the day. You know, whether it's like when we're getting the kids to school, whether it's when we're at school, whether it's after school. I mean, just that level of instant communication, and that we're just so open with each other. We're very trusting of each other. Like we said earlier, that, you know, our visions are so aligned that I never feel pressure from her to, you know, deliver in this certain way or deliver in that certain way. I never feel inadequate with what I'm doing, because if there is a weakness that I'm not good at, she naturally fills in those gaps, you know. And you can definitely have that with a non-spouse, you know, colleague. It just is naturally going to take a little bit more time through that, you know, relationship development and just getting to know each other and all of those things. I mean, I've had some great colleagues before and I've loved working with them, but you know, if I have to line them up against me and my spouse, I mean, I'm taking my spouse like every single time. And that's no discredit to them. I mean, I always say, like, working with Anne is like, she's my no look pass partner. You know, Kobe and Shaq, I mean, they could always have this nonverbal communication on the court. And if I'm in the classroom, I can give her like QB signals, you know, or, you know, nonverbal things, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about, and she will go and do it right away. Or if there's something that she needs that I'm really good at, like, I can already anticipate some of those things. So that instantaneous communication, the scheduling of the lesson plans, all of those goals, visions, those are huge. And, you know, I also think just getting to see what a healthy, collaborative, connecting marriage looks like, you know, in class. You know, we were talking about a couple years back, we were doing a professional development series on the 4 C's, and help me if I miss one.
Oh,
you got to be creative, you got to collaborate, you got to communicate, and you have to connect. You know, the 4 C's of 21st century learning. And I just think through our relationship that we have, I mean, they're seeing that in real time every single day, you know, and just what a witness that can be to those kids. And we love getting those little notes at the end of the year, especially when it's at the high school level. You know, you're sending those kids off, they're going to tackle the world, and there's a lot of anticipation there. There's going to be sometimes a little bit of fear there. And when you get just that little note of like spending time in class with you guys and just seeing how you operate, it was a highlight of our time, you know. And I just hope that they can take something that they picked up in band class. You know, if they forget the music and the notes, just pick up how we really work together to accomplish something, you know. And then at the end of the day, you know, having that spouse that truly understands the breadth of the job, you know, the inner details of the job, you know. Like I said, I've worked with, you know, colleagues that are not my spouse, and they understand the situation. You know, they understand what being a band director involves, like sometimes the late hours, sometimes the grade book, sometimes hard conversations with kids. Like, they get that, you know. And when you come home to, you know, your spouse that maybe was in music, maybe was not in music, it might be hard for them to relate to all of those challenges. Sometimes not, you know, sometimes there are really strong relationships that last throughout, but there's just that extra level of just like, honey, I got you. Like, we're going to get through this. That level of just reassurance and comfort to be your best person you can be comes from working with your spouse, I think.
And your spouse knows when you come home that you're completely exhausted, and they know why you're completely exhausted. Like, why are you so wrung out? We only worked 8 hours. Like, That's never been something we've ever said to each other.
Yeah.
So we work in a private government school. I mean, a public government school. You guys work in a private school. What are some of the advantages of the private school model, and then some of the disadvantages as well?
Do you want to take advantages or disadvantages?
I'll take advantages.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things that drew us to our private school was obviously the faith-based learning. And that's something that we love to be able to share with our students every single day, is to celebrate our Catholic faith. And really that's the central part of what we do, is that we get to play music, and it's all for the glory of God. We're using our gifts and talents and celebrating that, and being able to celebrate the sacraments at school and go attend mass once a week. That was really what we felt was missing when we were working in the public school system. And so it all centralizes what we do at the end of the day, all centralizes back to our faith. And that is the foundation. And at the end of the day, no matter what happens, we have that. And it's great to have conversations and be able to incorporate that with kids, especially when challenges come up and kids have, tough life things happen. We can always be open and honest and talk about our faith with them. And so that's honestly the biggest number one advantage of teaching in a private school is having that faith-based foundation.
Yeah. I would say some of the challenges on the opposite side of that is just it really challenges you to be patient with a lot of things, when it comes to planning a program. If you need to replace this piece of equipment, or you want to expand the library, or you want to go to this festival, or you want to do XYZ, you name it. It's going to take some patience on your end, because obviously there's a financial side of it that, in our situation, there's a lot of fundraising that goes into building those budgets every single year. We have a wonderful team at our school right now that is very hardworking in going out and getting those donor dollars, making those connections in the community with people that support the Catholic school education model. And in our area that we have up in Bismark, North Dakota, there is a huge amount of support for Catholic education. And we just built a brand new facility on the north end of our town, and it was a multi-million-dollar project. And we finally wrapped up all those pledges and all of those donations. And so now we're set to go on that. The next goal is, securing those salaries with, different endowment funds. And so there's a lot of drive and energy that comes with it to make these things happen. It just takes time and patience, And
I think, to jump in here too, I think that there can be a misconception between private and public school in that, private school, like, you guys have all this money. And it's like, no, the money has to come from somewhere, right? Like, we don't just have the money. And so there's a lot of people who are, boots on the ground, working hard to, like Ben said, make those connections and raise those dollars. Every dollar is raised. Yeah. And we have a number of generous people who support our mission. And but it doesn't just happen. The money has to come from somewhere. And I think that can be a common misconception, even myself, right? Like, I came from Catholic school, and coming back, it's like there is a lot of work that and it's a big challenge.
And I would say, like, the two maybe like perfect examples I can give of this: when I worked in Sioux Falls in the public school system, one of the biggest projects we did every single year was our capital outlay project. We had a 5-year schedule. So in your own building, in your own department, you had to be able to think 5 years out of, okay, the timpani does need to get replaced, but we can wait on it for year 4. Or I really need some clarinets right now. We're going to put that on next year's. And you're always constantly revisiting those. It gets sent to the central office and things get approved, or they come back, hey, can you make some adjustments here? And we're talking a very large school district with tens of thousands of kids with a huge school inventory of instruments, So there's that side of it. We had to do the same thing with our instrument repair, when the people would come through and say, all right, I can fix this for 20, I can fix that for 50. We had to put it all on a list and like highlight it with different colors of, this is immediate, this can be okay, this could wait. There's a lot of that prep that comes with it. When I hopped over to the Catholic school system, in Sioux Falls, it was different. The budgetary dollars were obviously a lot smaller. It's a smaller pool of, students. It's, it doesn't, it's not as involved. But through making some connections with some local community people, I was able to help kind of progress some of the small projects that we wanted to do. I still remember this to this day. I was teaching at O'Gorman Junior High. Their colors are blue, just like ours are. And they had this huge blue Ludwig drum set in the back of the band room. I mean, the thing was just a yacht. It was so big. I mean, and it kind of wobbled because the bass feet weren't, quite steady. The throne would always sink to the floor. The cymbal stand was being held together by duct tape. And I'm like, what are we dealing with here? We got to fix this. And so went to the principal and shared the concern and like, what are some options we have? And so we had to get creative. And we came up with this plan of like, I just want to be kind of transparent with a little bit of humor and be open with our families at a concert. And I kind of demonstrated to, we're looking to fix this part of our drum set. I've got this plan and yada, yada. And I infused some humor on it. I had a kid sit on the drum set throne and he just like that, sank to the floor, held up the cymbal stand. And it was all good and fun and jokey. And after the concert, one parent came up to me and said, "How much do you need?" And just like that. And so I really think, some of those stereotypes that maybe are circling around that, private schools or even charter schools, like they have all this money just sitting around, or, these kids come from really great families that they'll take care of that, It starts with making those connections. You got to get out into the community, share your vision, and that give those benefactors that sense of trust that this is what you really see, and I believe in you. And that's something we've experienced here with a few folks that have helped us out with some projects, that we love being here, despite the, maybe the lower financial amount of money that we make in a year, that it came from moving from South Dakota to here. That doesn't matter to us. We are here for these kids, and showing that to them, that we love your children. We want the best for them. And we want this legacy, this culture to last for a really long time. That's been my new goal, our new goal together as a team, that anybody who comes into this school should be able to pick up exactly where we left off and never have to feel what we felt when we came into a new program, good, bad, or ugly, So yeah, those are some of the challenges, that I would say. But they're beautiful challenges, ones that are worth doing.
And I would say too, kids are kids everywhere. So kids in public school, kids in private school. I mean, kids are kids. You're going to have challenges in the classroom. So just know that band is band wherever you teach at a public or private school. But if you have a desire to teach in a private school, follow that lead, because it has been a huge blessing for us and kind of filled that void that we were feeling. And it's been great.
I love it. Great answers. Thank you. We're going to end up with some programming recommendations of some pieces that we all like. And then depending on what the answers are, we have not scripted this. We may throw in a recording of score and sound for people to listen to afterwards. We'll see how fancy we get. So Krystle, are you ready with one?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask them first.
I'm going to ask them, but I want to see if you're ready with
ask them first.
Okay.
They're the guests.
And what would you like to have us listen to?
Oh man, this is a tough one. I almost like to think of it as like composers. I think it's really important that you have kind of like your go-to list of composers. And for me, just some that come off the top of my head are Robert W. Smith. I've programmed the piece in Chan before, and my kids have absolutely loved it. It's a programmatic work, and it's manageable for a high school band, and it involves your percussionists. I have a lot of percussionists, and for me, it's really important that I get my percussionists involved. So Robert W. Smith is a go-to for me. But of course, I always, like to program some of the classics when I can. And if I had to pick one, I would say Red Rock Mountain by Rossano Gallant.
Oh, Rossano Gallant. Sorry.
Rossano Gallant writes beautiful, like luscious pieces. His music is just great to listen to. We've programmed that. Of course, there's always the Holst first Sweet Me Flat. I have not programmed it yet, but at some point I will, because it's one of those classic pieces that I think kids should know.
Yeah.
And Frank DeKelly always writes some great lit if you feel like your band can handle it.
We did one time when we dedicated the new auditorium with our new building. We were wanting to do something both spiritual and then maybe do something that was just like, let's go after it. I mean, we got the kids. These are some good kids. Let's throw something at them that's meaty. And we did Saucedo's Snow Caps. And that was a fun one. I mean, if you want to keep your percussionists busy, and if you got some horns that can play, and if you got some wonderful woodwind soloists, a little bit of double tonguing in the trumpet section, I mean, it's just a zinger, and it's so much fun to play. And that was a highlight, I think, in the last 8 years, is playing that one.
Yeah,
beautiful,
absolutely.
For sure.
All right, you want me to
let's see. From my side, middle school band, I think the concert that I look forward to every single year, just because my own personality, I love cinematic music that comes from movie and popular culture, because it's the music that I think a lot of these kids, when they're watching movies at their house, or if they're listening to tunes on the radio or Spotify or whatever it happens to be, that's what they connect with the most. And so a piece that I've played a couple times now, there's a couple of variations or arrangements of it, but How to Train Your Dragon will never miss. That is a good one. We did Living on a Prayer last year at our spring concert, and the kids really got into that one. However, there's not that modulation that happens right at the end of it that
Thankfully.
we all anticipate.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, right. Yeah, which makes it great. It's like, okay, we don't have to go too much higher with the key signature. Let's see, we've done Crazy Train before with the middle school kids, and I've had, what I like to do with it is I do like to add things into those concerts. Sometimes the kids will wear sunglasses. Sometimes, like one time we did a Star Wars piece, and I know they tell you not to do it at the bottom of the score. No costumes or cinematography or any kind of thing should be allowed at these concerts. So if somebody finds this, maybe, edit this part out. But I've come out before with a lightsaber and a cloak and conducted a Star Wars piece or two. And I still, to this day, parents coming up to me like, oh my gosh, I love that. Or kids that have graduated 6 years ago. That was like the best concert ever, and
Yes, there's
yeah.
definitely a picture of me somewhere wearing a taco hat, because we did It's Raining Tacos. So
nice.
Yeah, I think it's fortunate for the kids, I guess, that we're willing to do those things when we need to do them.
Yeah, and I get the kids involved in it too. Like, hey, if we do this song and this song, what do you think we should add to it? And I love their ideas.
Yep.
It's so much fun getting them involved with it, especially with things that they know and love. With that pop and movie music. And that's a favorite time of the year. I always look forward to it.
Yeah.
Love it. I have a piece to throw out there, which a lot of people have probably done, but because some people listening are probably like, well, I'm not going to do a lot of pop music in my program, and that can be a choice that they make. That's not the choice I make. I'm like you. At the end of the year, we do like all movie and pop just to ramp it up and parades and stuff. But to me, one of the most versatile pieces I've ever done is an arrangement by Paul Murtha of 1,000 Years from Twilight. And if people don't know it, it's legit a concert piece. Like, you could do it as a concert piece and the kids love it. It's a grade 2, especially if you have a good clarinet section, but it's also like a movie thing, right? So there's a little bit of that cinematic factor in there, but I've actually done it once on an actual program that was not a movie program, and it went really well.
Yeah. Can I just be clear for the audience that my favorite piece is not It's Raining Tacos?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I also look sometimes there's music that is, sometimes in the middle of the year, for your what February concert. Some years I'll go complete world music, like with both 7th and 8th grade bands. So we'll do things from across the world, whether that be from Spain, whether it be from England, whether it be from, Latin America, South America, Africa, and Earth. What was it?
Earth Dawn.
Earth Dawn.
Randall Sandridge.
Yes. We have a cohort of percussionists that are now juniors in high school.
Yeah.
We did this in 8th grade, And I also paired that with, what was that one from?
Terracotta Warriors? No.
Terracotta Warriors. That's another
That's
great
great.
one.
A good one.
No,
yeah.
what was the Chinese New Year piece that?
Oh yeah, can't. Fire.
Firecracker.
Firecracker.
Oh,
That's also a good one.
if you got some percussionists that
Yeah.
can keep that nice upbeat, steady tempo, and if you've got maybe access to maybe some different kind of world drums, Earth Dawn or Firecracker,
Nice.
they are some definite zingers and they get into it. And there's also some sound effects in Earth Dawn, like, you can get kids to do some vocalizations and whatnot. And they still remember that piece.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, we might even play it like senior year before the year is over. Just take it out of the library.
And since we're talking about percussionists, one of the pieces I like to do in high school that I've done now like once every 4 years is Solisane by Sam Hazo. And I like it because it's a lyrical piece that involves your percussionists, right? We're always trying to find ways that we can keep them involved, but yet still teach, that how to play lyrically. And that's been one of my favorite pieces to
Great
play.
flute solo in that piece. I've had to coach on that flute solo quite a bit.
Nice. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been awesome. We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.